Shalom, Katy.
Shalom, Tamar.
And shalom, hello to everyone who's joining us. So we are 2 years after October 7th, and 2 years that we have been in a very literal battle.
Yeah, for the past 2 years, it's been a battle, existential battle for survival.
Absolutely.
In Israel. I think we both woke up at 6:30 a.m. on October 7th and kind of went into shock and didn't know what was happening for a long, long time. And information was coming in, trickling in, and it was just horrors. People calling in on TV shows, asking to be rescued from their homes, and telling people like on live television that they're being set on fire in their safe places.
And it was 2 days of pure terror and horror because of the magnitude of the massacre and the brutality of the attack. The scenes were being live streamed on people's Facebook pages. People were finding out about their loved ones because the terrorists were taking people's phones and filming their atrocities. And so what we had was one of the most documented massacres ever. And it took how many years for people to start denying the Holocaust?
Oh, well, it
30, 40 years. Yes. And immediately people started denying the fact that it happened, or that it started saying it was staged and Israel staged it.
Canada a couple of months ago did not admit an October 7th movie into a film festival because it said that those videos the terrorists filmed themselves are protected by copyright law. Yes. And
the absurdity.
I mean, I think we after the initial shock wore off that October 2 years ago, we thought that now the world will actually see what we're going through.
And what we're up against.
Understand who we are up against, and finally Israel will take like a normal place in the United Nations, on the international scene. I mean,
on October 8th, there were massive demonstrations. They were chanting slogans. This is a day after. There were still terrorists in Israel a day after. And you had massive pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza, anti-Israel protests in New York City, chanting from the river to the sea, free Palestine by any means possible, which means what we just saw and what we're seeing is our acceptable means to free Palestine. Since that time, the protests against Israel on the left have only been growing in magnitude and potency. One of the things that we see is the strange marriage of radical Islam with the woke left.
Right. I mean, gays for Palestine, Intifada revolution.
Right. Globalize the Intifada. People are saying these things, and I don't think they really know what they mean.
But you and I, we lived through an Intifada here in Israel, the second Intifada in the early 2000s, where buses would explode and you never knew if you were safe.
I remember studying for final exams in Jerusalem when I was at the Hebrew University, and I was up really early, my friends and I, trying to cram for an exam, and there was this massive explosion, and we walked to our class over where a bus stop had exploded, and there was rubble everywhere, and that was an intifada, and it's not peaceful.
And I was at the same time, I was in Haifa, which is up north. It's a city where Jews and Arabs live in coexistence, and we had bus bombings as well. Several of my friends just missed the bus that, that later on exploded. So yeah, so many close calls, so many people died, and in that intifada.
Second intifada.
And I don't think that the young generation understands what intifada is.
When we've seen the Queers for Palestine marching arm in arm, here in Israel, we laugh because we say, if you were in Gaza, if you were a queer for Palestine, they would throw you off the roof.
Yes,
that's what they do to queers in Palestine.
Yes.
And all across the rest of the Middle East, where you have more conservative regimes, and women actually get murdered by their families if they dishonor.
Right.
Here in Israel as well.
Right.
And they actually prosecuted by the law. But if a woman dishonors her family by wearing jeans or marrying someone that her brothers or uncles or someone doesn't like, they can be killed. What is mind-boggling is this union of these two opposite worldviews, and they're joining forces and around the issue of Israel.
Right.
As Israel being a colonizing force, and Israel's the bully, and the liberals are for the underdogs, and so that's the paradigm through which they see the world.
Yes.
But we have just recently in New York,
Mamdani.
Yes.
Mamdani, the disaster for New York City, Iran, Qatar, Hamas, ISIS, Islamic Jihad congratulated him for his incredible victory. Young people voted for him, and Muslims across the globe are rejoicing in that,
Right.
because it's a stronghold that they just got.
They did just get it, and it reminded me when I had this realization that the two most powerful, influential cities in the world, politically, economically, and culturally, are London and New York. And both those cities have Muslim mayors.
Right.
And those men are very powerful and influential people. And it reminded me of the scene in Revelation 17, where you have the woman who is described as she's very rich. She has extravagant wealth,
Right.
and she is riding on this beast, and she's drunk on the blood of the saints, and this beast in the end hates her and destroys her. Whether that is that's happening, or it's a foreshadowing or a type of what can happen down the road, it is clearly a very similar situation to what we're seeing, where conservative Islam, radical Islam, is antithetical to liberal woke ideals.
Right.
And at some point, the mask will come off.
Right.
But it's not just anti-Israel sentiment from the left anymore, is it?
Yes, and that was really extremely surprising to me, because the left, we're regularly hear the left outbursts and the blood libels and everything about Israel. We know they hate us. We're okay with them hating us, but the right, that was a surprise.
Yes.
Professing believers rising up against Israel, blaming her for even for October 7th, and
Right.
it just, that came out of nowhere. I personally was not ready for that, and it was disappointing.
It's deeply disappointing. On the left, they mask it with we're anti-Zionism, we're anti-colonialism. But on the right, it's very bold, blatant anti-Semitism that has
Right.
been stirring in the dark corners of the internet for a while, but it's gaining ascendancy in the last couple of years, and particularly in the last year since Donald Trump came into office.
Right.
I think a lot of people kind of allowed their mask to come off, and it has been something that has found a ready audience, in particular with young white men
right.
who have been disaffected and marginalized by the 10 or so years of the extreme woke cultural movement in the West, which has told young men that you're to blame for all the woes and the evils in our society. And you can't blame a 15-year-old who has no historical context. But there are some very powerful older gatekeepers on the right who do know better, and they're very cynically using this moment to push a very evil and dark anti-Semitic agenda.
Yes. I mean, let's look at Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and their just unapologetic attack on the Jews and blaming them for being power hungry and trying to control
the world.
And it's just, wow, 1930s all over again.
Absolutely.
And these young men and women and people who are confused because all the news they're getting are from these 5-10 second edited footage, they don't know better, and that's what gets imprinted on their minds. And people like Tucker Carlson, they just exploit that. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
no other word. He exploits those people for likes and money, and it's very sad and it's very dangerous. Especially this one podcaster,
Nick Fuentes.
Yes.
Who he just recently platformed and gave a softball interview to, and didn't challenge him on anything. And this young man, Nick Fuentes, is a bold anti-Semite, racist, misogynist. He says horrible, detestable things about women, about people of color, and about Jews. He's really I listened to some of his clips, and it is so dark. It's dark, it's spiritually, it was tough listening to him speak because it's so evil. But he was given a platform by the most influential conservative podcaster in the United States.
Sad.
But what's really sad is it comes on the heels, just literally like a month after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, who had this massive political organization to reach young conservatives, and in particular
the same young people,
young men. And he was unapologetically supportive of Israel. He was a man of faith, and it was a genuine faith, and he grew in it over the years. I mean, he started as an 18-year-old, and of course he was a little bit of, he was a bit raw when he started, and but as he aged and matured, he grew in his faith, and he became a father, and he really saw his role as trying to guide these young men who are rudderless. They had many of them, they don't have strong male role models, and who had been pushed down and degraded, or felt degraded by the culture. And Charlie Kirk drew a line on Israel, and he drew a line on the extremists, like Nick Fuentes. He said, no, we're not engaging them, we are not debating them, because we cannot mainstream that.
And that is the man who debated everyone. The Israelis, even my girl said, when he was assassinated, my girl said, hey, we've seen these videos. My girls are not English speakers. I mean, English is their second language, and they still, Charlie was, his videos were really big in Israel, so his influence was beyond the English-speaking world.
The sad thing is that perhaps the name of Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point, was a prophetic name.
Definitely was.
Because there has been a dramatic turning after his violent and brutal assassination. Podcasters on the right who have been flirting with anti-Semitism went full force after Charlie Kirk was murdered, and went so far as to say it wasn't woke trans guy who murdered Charlie Kirk. It was the Israelis. It was the Mossad. And it's just gotten worse from that. From that point, it's just gone down the drain. And unfortunately, Tucker Carlson, he just hosted this Nick Fuentes. Oh, and in that interview, I don't know if you heard, he made a very interesting statement that should have not just Jews worried, but Christians who support Israel worried as well. He called Christians who support Israel heretics. It's a Christian heresy, and that he dislikes them more than anyone, which is a strong thing to say. But at the same time, he is one of the main speakers for Turning Point now, and he's been showing up at their conferences and speaking. It's a sobering moment for us as Jews. I mean, since October 7th, we've been through deeply traumatic events.
Yes.
And then putting on top of that all of the anti-Semitism and the lies being sold around the world about what actually is going on. And then Israelis always having this sense that at least the evangelical Christians are supporting us.
Right. And now it's
that's
shattering.
That's starting to shatter.
Yes.
And it's a very frightening development, and it's something that we need to be aware of, and our friends in the nations need to be aware of.
Right, because right now, if you support Israel, then you're in a battle with us. I mean, there will be a battle against you as well. And it's not really news for us, because we all read our Bibles, we know the Word of God, we know what is coming, and that the martyrs will be crying out to God before Yeshua returns. But standing your ground will be a task like you've never faced before. I mean, look, President Trump, you like him, you don't like him, he has been a friend to Israel.
Absolutely.
He has done so many great things for Israel. Not perfect, not everything we as believers like, but he has been a friend like we've never seen before for such a time as this.
Absolutely. And that would make people think, well, America has Israel's back. America is supporting Israel. Israelis shouldn't worry. You all shouldn't worry. Christians are supporting you. But the thing is, Trump's out in 3 years.
Right.
And there's already this jockeying in the political realm in the right to what's coming next. And it's these extreme voices that are starting to dominate, and they're on the rise now, and it's a spiritual dynamic. And what's interesting is I've listened to a lot of podcasts and read articles, people discussing it, and everyone who is a sane person on the right keeps saying, I don't understand.
Right.
Everyone has said that statement. I don't understand what Tucker Carlson is doing. I don't understand these people who are coming and supporting him and not calling evil, and saying, stop virtue signaling, don't wag your finger at us and tell us we can't talk about these things. They're saying, I don't understand, because it's a spiritual
It is spiritual. It is spiritual battle, and no one knows it better than the believers in Israel.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been hit so hard on every side, and I mean, throughout this war for 2 years, I think you and I spoke more than once, saying, wondering, how are people doing this without God?
I know.
Without truly loving God, without truly relying on Him. And yet God has moved in a mighty way.
Absolutely.
And if there's so many things, so many hostages that came back, and they're like, I know God was with me. I spoke with God every day. I prayed every day. This is what got me through. And then here comes a person, and he's a professed Christian. He doesn't apologize for being a Christian. He stands in the face of the left and says, I know that Christian values are better than your abortions and your communist views. And then he goes against every scriptural reference everything that Paul has written. Paul called Christians to support Israel, not only pray for Israel, but support it financially. And he would go and get all these donations and bring them to Jerusalem. And then from that to go to someone who hates and denies Israel. I mean, it is spiritual. There is no other explanation to it. And that is that deception that I believe will cause many hearts to grow cold toward the Lord in the last days.
Absolutely. And it's very serious. These are serious times, and it's happening quickly. What we would like to do, a series that will help you, our friends in the nations, wade through all of the propaganda that you've been hearing these last 2 years that it's frankly been confusing for people.
Very much so.
And also to give resources to be able to push back when you hear Christian supporters of Israel are heretics. They're Christian heretics. Believers need to be able to give a Bible-based reason for supporting Israel and for blessing Israel and for God's plans for Israel. So what we would like to do is do a few videos. The first one we would like to do is really answer the questions that were raised by many. We even had friends and family asking questions about the genocide in Gaza.
Right. How come it looks like it's been wiped out?
Exactly. All of the destruction that we see in Gaza. Is it a war crime? The famine. Israel starving,
deliberately
starving
yes.
the people of Gaza. And then also we want to address, and I think this is maybe something we'll do together with Moti, the deep question that even Israelis are asking a lot now, and they asked on October 7th, where's the army? Why did this happen?
Because that was always one of the questions during the 7th of October of everyone who called in asking, where is everyone? Why isn't anyone coming?
Even the terrorists. The terrorists, there were some clips of a terrorist saying, where's the army?
Yes.
Where's
they
the
were
army?
waiting for them.
They were waiting for them.
Yes.
We want to do a deep dive into that because there are also a lot of conspiracies here in Israel as well.
Right.
But there are conspiracies around the world about it, and we want to do a deep dive and give some insider information, frankly, about what the mindset was in the Israel's security establishment and military at that time.
And then if you have any questions or anything you would like to ask us about these specific things that we've talked about today, and how Israel views everything that's going on, then just please go to our website, tiferetyeshua.org, and send us an email with your questions. And as long as there are questions, I think we can keep doing these videos because we enjoy it very much. And we want this information to be available for you so that you are able to not only answer to others when they come against Israel, but just to reconcile the stuff that you have within so that you're in the loop.
Absolutely. We know that the Word of God tells us that we have a joint heritage together as Jewish believers and as Gentile believers. And we are seeing now that we have a joint fate as well. Jews and Jewish believers and Christians who are going to make a stand, who are standing for Israel and will make a stand for Israel at a time when it may cost them. It might cost them jobs or political positions, or it might cost them even more than that. So we want to be able to share with you what we have, share information, share resources, and encourage you if we can.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. Toda raba,
Thank you. Toda Tamar. Thank you. And we'll see you next time. And we bless you from Tel Aviv.
Amen. Bye.